business, and I've got one too. You can't mind your business. What's the matter with you?
Welcome to the Brand Shorthand Podcast, a new season, our season number 3, and Happy New Year to all of our listeners and subscribers. I'm your host, Mark Vandergrift, and with me today is the advertising alchemist, Lorraine Kessler. Lorraine, how are you feeling about the new year and the new season?
Well, I am feeling fantastic. First of all, I love snow. We've had tons of it, right?
Yes.
We're buried in it. I love it. And apparently my new puppy loves it too, so that's good because she loves the walks in Bettler Park. Beautiful park. But on top of that, my Eagles are back in the Super Bowl. So this is going to be very exciting, and they're against their former coach again, Andy Reid.
Yeah.
A lot of people perhaps don't remember Andy Reid coached the Eagles for many, many years. He's a superb coach. Well, we have a superb coach in Sirianni who went to Mount Union. He has roots in Ohio and Ohio football. So this will be good.
Awesome. Yeah, we have our Super Bowl special coming up next week. So we will be going through all the Super Bowl ads and maybe even get to 2 episodes out of that, given last year's lengthy episodes. So we'll be previewing the Super Bowl ads and reviewing those next week with a special guest, Scott Edwards. Lorraine is unable to join us. She has travel plans. So we are welcoming our executive creative director, Scott Edwards. So We're excited for that next week.
Plus, it's my birthday.
Plus, it's your birthday, yes. So what a nice gift if they won the Super Bowl for you. Wouldn't that be great?
I want to see them do to Mahomes what they did to Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Mahomes is like a magician, right? I mean, he's unearthly.
He really is. But I was surprised. The Eagles kind of cruised to victory. It wasn't a fourth quarter where you had to chew on your nails very much.
Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah, that secondary better be good.
Yeah. Good. Well, to kick off season 3, we're going to dive into the latest news that has occurred since we wrapped up season 2 in the world of advertising. There's other big news. Of course, we have a new president. We had an election, all that stuff. But there's some recent buzz around some of the big brands. And one brand that seemed to gain some major attention was a different animal, not an eagle, but a Jaguar. To give a quick overview for those who haven't seen the ad, back in November, Jaguar released a 30-second teaser titled Copy Nothing to announce its rebrand. And Jaguar states, "We're here to delete ordinary, to go bold, to copy nothing." With the video featuring a group of models, I put that in quotations, dressed in vibrant colors. And I think it's important to note that there was no car mentioned in the ad or shown in the ad. And to me, it felt like it could be an advertisement for a beauty product. So Lindsay, our new producer this season, is going to insert a clip of the ad. And Lorraine, before we dive deep, just give us your first impression of the ad.
Well, my first impression is it was a homage to what's going on in the culture and the woke. But, first impressions are misleading. I've had more time to think about what they're trying to do. And also the other impression, it reminded me of the cast from Dune with like a David Lynch costuming, right? Like if you ever saw the first Dune, it was kind of like that. So as I've thought about it, first of all, you have to understand that we used to own a Jag. There we go. The XJ, beautiful, beautiful car. Jag was purchased by Ford, which was disastrous because the first thing my husband and I said to each other was, I hope Ford doesn't make Jag look like a Ford. And that's exactly what they did. You see those Jags that came out of the Ford Motor Company ownership, they looked like a Taurus. It was like, how could you take this car that was iconically known for style, beautiful lines, sportsmanship, sports car racing, just a high-end style that no one else had, and make it a Ford, like
Hmm.
really bad. So now they're owned by Tata. I guess I pronounced that right. It's an Indian company, and they started by building trains and trucks. So now they own it. So one, if we just talk about the purpose of advertising, right? The purpose of advertising, and this is kind of the old school thinking, is to draw attention to the product, not to itself.
Hmm.
But, we've revolved to brand marketing. So understandably, ads in this very cluttered environment need to get attention, otherwise all is lost. I think Bill Bernbach said, if you don't get attention, that's commercial suicide. So I have no problem with them getting attention. And the more I thought about it, and that's what I said, I'm less concerned about the politics of the ad and the criticism which is coming from the woke, anti-woke school. I think this ad, this 30-second teaser, was a PR stunt disguised as an ad, right? I suspect that the intended goal was shock to begin with. And to what? Start this conversation, whether negative or positive.
Hmm.
And it did that.
Yep.
So from that standpoint, pretty damn successful.
Good. Well, about 2 weeks after the release of that sneak peek into Jaguar's rebrand, the design vision concept for the Jaguar Type 00
Mhm.
was revealed at the Miami Artwork, and you're going to see pictures on the screen here. Both the original ad and the concept videos quickly went viral and seemed to generate, as you said, negative sentiment toward the
Right.
idea of this rebrand. That we always touch on this, and I don't know necessarily where I ever land on it because I think each situation is different. But Lorraine, some would say any PR is good PR.
Mhm.
And I think that we believe that bad PR is bad PR. Your thoughts on that? Just give our listeners a reminder of where we kind of fall on that and whether we think there is bad PR.
Well, it depends. I think you started with that,
Yeah.
right? There is bad PR. I would say that bad PR is what happened to Boar's Head when it had meat products with listeria killing people. There's no good PR that comes out of that because what that was followed with were exposés on how bad this packing plant or meat processing plant that they owned in Virginia was, how many health violations. So you know what? I've been a Boar's Head buyer for years because I've always believed they had such high quality product. I won't buy it anymore. In fact, my husband went out and bought some stick salami stuff that you cut for the holidays, and I'm like, "Are you out of your mind? That's Boar's Head." And that probably didn't come from this plant, and it's probably fine. But you know what? That's bad PR. I
Yeah.
mean, that is bad PR. Negative criticism of an ad or negative criticism of things you're doing is not bad PR if it gets conversation going and it ends up doing what you intentioned. And I do really think that what the advertisers and what Tata wanted to do with Jaguar was shock the scene, come
Mhm.
onto the scene, and because this is a brand that has been flatlined for many years, and certainly fell into this doldrums with this Ford whatever you want to call it, fashioning
Mhm.
of the iconic look of the brand. And I don't know how many places they can go with this today. So I would say that the Trojan horse of this teaser, that was really a PR gimmick, accomplished everything Jaguar wanted, including the negative comments, because it's getting it talked about.
Right.
And so I think it's a very effective way to reposition when you want to take this big a risk. And they're obviously taking a big risk. That they need to find a new audience. That's not the old starch kind of stodgy gentry of British wealth or those who want to look like British wealth. It's a big bet. It's a big bet. I think they're counting on something Herschel Gordon Lewis called the shock diminution rule, which is you come out with an idea that shocks, and then you repeat that idea over time, and it then becomes mildly accepted, and finally, ho-hum, right? It just kind of gets normalized, and this is, I think, what they were counting on. So, and
Yeah.
just a comment on that Miami
Oh,
video. The car itself is remarkable. I mean, I don't know who the audience is for it, but it is remarkable. Um, it is certainly a different looking vehicle. It makes a statement of all its own. But the announcer, I don't know what they were thinking there. He doesn't fit that look or that vibe at all.
Well, it's known to be a luxury performance sports car,
Mhm.
and I think with the new Type 00, they're transforming into an eclectic only brand with a kind of a futuristic look.
Yeah,
And their color options, I think, were Miami pink and London blue.
yeah,
But that's not all.
yeah.
What else did they do? They changed the look of the logo,
Right.
and it deconstructs the logo from that well-known iconic look of a Jaguar
Hmm.
to, well, I don't even know how to explain it. It looks artsy to me rather than powerful and elite. It has some symmetry to it and doesn't emulate that beautiful Jaguar that we're used to seeing.
Right.
So I can't give it a thumbs up on the new logo. What's your thought on that?
Well, this is a total repositioning of the brand for future audiences and a futuristic look. So, as I said, what whether what audience exists that would want this or who they are, I don't know. And whether that audience is large enough to make the brand profitable again, I don't know. But I would think that the logo, just in isolation, my response to it was very negative
Mm-hmm.
because it's so simple and like it's almost contrived to be simple and modern. But when you see it on the vehicle itself, it fits. Okay, so there again is some intention in this reposition that they've come out with. So I guess for me, time will tell. It's part of that shock rule again. A lot of times when a logo is drastically changed, and there should be a reason for it. Well, there is a reason for this. This car is wildly different. It is building on the past of Jaguar for its style and its uniqueness, and that it's always stood out in the car market for its lines and what have you.
Uh-huh.
So it is tying back to that, but it's hugely a departure. So I would have to say, if you think about the old logo, which is very heritage driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And much more realistic because of that. You put that on this car, that would have looked really strange.
Yeah.
So in context, I'd have to say I understand why they went where they went. It's just different when we look at it kind of artificially in print or what have you, video as just a logo.
Well, we always talk about repositioning, and Trout has some guidelines around
Mhm.
this. Why don't you remind our listeners of kind of the rule of repositioning in this regard?
Yeah, well, one thing he always says is you have to tie back to something in your past that people regarded you for or understood or believed you were about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you don't want to jump from where you are to something that's totally foreign, because you have to tie to something. So when you look at the Jaguar, um, it was always known as classy, a high performance car. It had a kinship to racing, and it was known for these, I would call them sleek designs that really balanced elegance and boldness, uniqueness. So, and as I said, it did appear to like Britain's gentry, the kings and the nobles, the people of the uh, that owned manors and lords and people had money, and anyone in the world who wanted to identify with that wealth or appear to be that cool, that British cool. So I think that this new style is just recasting those attributes or associations with a very, very futuristic vibe. It's just saying, and in a way, as I said, I don't know where Jaguar could go. It really can't go back to its past
Right.
unless it wants to be a museum kind of car. And there's plenty of these around that people could buy and cherish. On whether to go forward. And so it's a big bet. I don't know if it's the right bet. It's a big one. But I have to say they put their whole body into the pool with this. So
Well, search went through the roof for the Jaguar brand.
hmm
So they did accomplish attention.
oh, that's
Whether it's the
interesting.
right attention, that'd be interesting to see.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Now I'm not. We would no longer ever be a Jag customer, right? I mean, even if I could afford a new one,
uh-huh.
that new design does not appeal to us at all. We would more be in the market for a used, refurbished,
One of the old ones.
right. So that's my point about the total customer market. I don't know who the market is for this. Um, they must be counting on it being big enough to be profitable, right? So,
Yep. Well, they're putting all their chips on the table, I think, here.
right.
Yeah. Well, staying on the topic of cars,
hmm
Volvo, one of our favorite brands to cite in the past, because Volvo stands for,
Safety or safe cars.
yep, but they got away from it.
hmm
And we've bemoaned that fact for probably 15 to 20 years now as well,
hmm
pointing out that you can't walk away from your position and think you're still going to own it. So Volvo recently released a 3-minute and 45-second long ad featuring their new Volvo EX90.
Yep.
And to provide a quick overview, this ad tells an emotional story. It really is neat, of a man first learning he is becoming a father and how the Volvo's safety features work to protect and save the lives of his family. The video includes the caption, "Designed to be the safest Volvo car ever made." And again, Lindsay will run an ad for us here on screen. Lorraine, what are your thoughts on the video and Volvo returning to its formerly solid position of the safe car?
Well, I'll start with the second question, return to safety as a position. I don't think anything proves the efficacy of positioning like Volvo. I think obviously that return is much needed and great. Now they have dabbled in it. They've kind of been seesawing on this over the years. I mean, sometimes they've come out with a safety ad and whatever, but they kind of have lost it to Subaru, who's been pretty strong with the safety ads. And every time they stray from safety, as you mentioned, as their reason for being, or as Simon Sinek would be, their why. We believe in building safe cars that people love and enjoy and find to be beautiful. See, I didn't leave out the beauty. Because if you remember, one of the problems that Volvo had was kind of like Domino's Pizza. If you're making a car, you can't afford to make it ugly. And
Right.
the old joke about Volvos when I was when I lived in Dallas in the 1980s, and there were a lot of people who owned Volvos, is they sounded like lawnmowers, and they kind of looked like them. So they had to fix their styling. They did that, but what you want to do is that's table stakes. You got to have a pizza that's people want to eat, not just have delivery. That's your differential. I always say it's table stakes plus what makes you different.
Right.
So the fact that they beautified the car, and it is a beautiful car in that commercial, it's absolutely gorgeous. But every time they bring back safety, they win. And we like to say branding is boring business. And it is. And you stick with that idea because that idea really sells cars. And I think it'd be really interesting to compare what you started off with, the statement about their ad statement about making the safe car.
Yep.
How plain that is, how logical, how rational, compared with the statements made about Jaguar before, which were very kind of arty and, out there and, a little different. One proposition's a true proposition. The other is a lot of highfalutin kind of drama or showmanship, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, in terms of the brand storytelling, who would watch a 4-minute video? It is so well done. The story there, the brand storytelling in this little 4-minute video is captivating. It's really like a mini movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's so believable. And that punchline, I mean, I love great copy. So sometimes the moments that never happen matter the most is just exquisite. I mean, just beautiful.
Yeah, it's well done. Do you think with more and more cars prioritizing safety, you mentioned Subaru, but Kia has really pushed that button with their safety ratings and such. And Kia, you don't get that feeling of a cheap car that you used to. They've really come around.
Yeah.
Do you think Volvo has a chance to earn that #1 spot again, that we think Volvo equals safe car?
Yeah, because I think they have the lead. Okay. I think they still, I mean, I wouldn't know. You can quantify this with research. It's a good thing with research to say, statistically, what brand do you associate with safety? My bet is Volvo would still win that, maybe 2-1 over any other brand, or at least with a significant margin. So now if you press it, if you really, bleed it, and you keep repeating it, like I hope this commercial isn't a one-off and this campaign isn't a one-off. I hope they stick with this theme. Then they are in the best position to own it. Instead of, they gave up ground, but I think it's ground they can get back if they do the right things.
Well, something else curious happened. Volvo and Jaguar, as we've mentioned, the two brands so far, Volvo dropped that video in September, but it didn't really gain much recognition until the same time as the Jaguar rebrand videos hit in November. And what was interesting is some of the comments under the Volvo video even mentioned Jaguar. And one of them was, "Thank you, Volvo, for not being like Jaguar." Another one was, "The whole Jaguar disaster brought me here." And then, "Dear Jaguar, this is how you make an advert."
Yeah.
Which that had to be an English person because we call them advertisements here. Yeah. "Dear Jaguar, this is how you make an advertisement." So it's interesting the way we're consuming media now, that these two kind of got put in parallel with one another, even though it's different audiences. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think you have to take those comments for what they're worth. I doubt very, very much that the person who's a Volvo buyer is considering Jaguar in their selection set. That they're very different audiences who care a lot about different things. And of course, from the advert for Volvo, you can tell they're targeting families. They're targeting people who care about other people, passengers. That's not the Jaguar buyer. The Jaguar buyer is someone who's arrived in their life financially and is looking for sport and sex appeal and lots of other things, and not taking care of the family. Taking care of the family is a primary goal, and feeling like what they're driving is safe. So I just feel like you have to take some of these comments with a grain of salt. They're doing two different things. And as I said, on hindsight, you're right. Who got more buzz going? It seemed negative at first, but I got to tell you, it's set up everybody waiting to see the car. Everybody with Jaguar, everyone now wanted to see the car to see if it lives up to all the hype. And for the person who's interested in that car, and again, I don't know who that is because it's not me, and I hope there's enough of them. It certainly delivered.
Well, we'll see when the rubber meets the road as to who's sold more cars as a result of their advertising, right?
And it's not just who sells more, but who makes more higher margin on. Yeah. I mean, I suspect there'll be far less buyers for the Porsche than Volvo. I'm not Porsche. I'm sorry, Jaguar. See how that happened? Than the Volvo, but they're going to pay a lot more per car, per unit for that car, and whatever the profit margin is. So I
Right.
think that's the measure.
Well, November seemed to be a significant month for advertising buzz. Coca-Cola was among the names receiving major attention due to the recent commercials.
Yep.
And Coca-Cola is known for bringing the holiday spirit with their annual Christmas spots. But fans had a lot to say about the brand's change in scene.
Mm-hmm.
This year, Coke released a series of AI-generated ads that reflect a remake of the brand's 1995 Holidays Are Coming ad.
Okay.
And there was a lot of buzz started to generate about how Coca-Cola lost the nostalgic feel associated with their previous holiday ads. Did you have a chance to catch that commercial?
Yeah, I did, and it's kind of funny. I think nostalgia is a double-edged sword. We feel good about it, but it
Mhm.
can be deadly for a brand.
Mhm.
If you get stuck in your past, I think that's like then it starts feeling like a sweater you took out of the closet that has moth holes in it. You know what I mean? It's been in
Yeah.
there too long, and it has that funky smell. So it's time to get a new sweater. You might still love sweaters, but you need a new one. Coca-Cola is an American institution. This brand is fantastic, and its association with Christmas goes back to 1920s. I applaud kind of using new technology and new ways of filming to bring that forward. This is how people live today. You know, I'm not living in my grandmother's house.
Right.
I'm not. So I think that I don't have a problem with it. I think the overall storyline was fantasy based. So
Mhm.
some of the computer generated or AI generated visuals work in the fantasy based kind of thing. Now, overuse of anything can be a problem. And as having been trained as an artist to begin my early career, a painter and printmaker and a drawer, I was always cautioned by profs, don't settle on a gimmick. Don't let it become a rut, right? Don't because that's easy for you to do. Don't stick with that.
Mhm.
So I think anything overused can fall into those traps. And so, but I don't see that they're going to do that. Well, I don't think all Coca-Cola commercials are going to look like these or this one. And so,
Good.
yeah.
Well, moving on from the news of cars and cola,
Hmm.
on January 13th, so just a couple of weeks ago, Walmart announced they were introducing an updated brand identity for the first time in 17 years. So 17 years, you're talking kind of a generation there, right?
Right.
Some
Uh-huh.
of the key features of the brand's refresh was a bolder font. And we talked last season about all of these fonts recently, or these logos pulling up with bolder and bolder fonts. And then they also emboldened their yellow spark that
Yeah.
accompanies their Walmart name. Um, so they went from what I would call a softer blue to a brighter blue, and the softer yellow to a brighter yellow.
Right.
The Walmart CMO said this, William White said, "This update, rooted in the legacy of our founder, Sam Walton, demonstrates our evolving capabilities and longstanding commitment to serve our customers of today and tomorrow." And
Oh,
Lorraine, you're going to say something, I'm sure, about getting paid by the word.
yeah, literally. I don't know who wrote that for him, but that is such talk about fantasy. I mean, this is when when marketers make too much out of a small thing, right? This is in 4 words. This is much ado about nothing. I doubt that if you showed the new logo by itself,
Mhm.
to all of the loyal Walmart customers, that one would say, "Oh, look how the font is bolder, and look how this the whatever you call that
Spark.
the spark is a little thicker and a little bolder, and the color." They're not going to notice.
Mhm.
They're just not. I didn't notice. I had to like, what? What did they change? And then to hear these highfalutin justifications is just, it's painful. It's just painful. But that said, I love logo evolutions, and maybe you can show the tide evolution over the years, right? Most people don't even realize it changed. That's good. That's really good, people, because when you don't really register the change, emotionally you may have, or intuitively you may notice it, but you're still connecting to the brand. You haven't lost connection, and we know when a brand or a logo goes too far, there's a greater risk in changing a logo of losing your audience than keeping them or making them feel good. So I'm a big fan of evolution, unless, and there's always a caveat, there's a real reason to change your logo dramatically because you've either had a crisis or competition or just change is so prevalent that you need to change it. So I just think their mistake in this wasn't changing it. I like it. I like what they've done. I think it's a better logo, or an improvement. It's not a better logo. It's the same logo, just improved. But I wish they would just shut up about it and just let it happen.
Not make it news. Yeah. Well, certainly there's going to be people that notice it because people pay attention to big brands. But like you said, we encourage our own clients to iterate their brand in a quiet way. It's like updating your clothes closet, right?
Yeah.
No one walks in one day and goes, "Oh, you have a new style all of a sudden."
Yeah.
It's more like, "Oh, I like that shirt." "Oh yeah, I just got it for my birthday." And so, that might be the evolution starting into a new style. But, when you announce it and you come in and, if Mark Vandergrift showed up with pink hair, I think everyone would notice. That would be out of character for me.
I don't know, too, what this has to do with Sam Walton at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the first Walmart logo is really stodgy and real. I think if you go way back, this one that happened 17 years ago was a great refreshment. I mean, it was really a great move. And they've just iterated on that. I mean, it's like so I don't know how this speaks to Sam Walton, whose whole idea was being really a bully on buyers and using technology to manage inventory, cutting costs structurally so he could offer a lower price. That was his genius. I don't think how the brand looked or any of that was even in his mind. In fact, I even did business with Walmart for Champion Spark Plug when Sam was alive. And I can tell you, it wasn't an aesthetic environment at that time. So I don't know what they're talking about then.
Well, like you said, they probably got paid by the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how the agency got compensated. Well, I think that wraps up today's discussion, and hopefully we caught our listeners up to speed on some of the brand news that happened. We have a big week planned next week for the Super Bowl podcast.
Great.
And just possibly the next 2 weeks, depending on how juicy the discussion gets with the Super Bowl spots.
Yeah.
I'll be on a local radio station discussing the Super Bowl. So if you're in the Northeast Ohio area, tune in to WHBC 1480 Talk Radio at 7:30 a.m. on both Friday, February 7th and Monday, February 10th to hear my interview with host Pam Cook.
Oh, good.
And I'll be discussing some of our feedback on those ad spots. The main reason most of us watch the Super Bowl if we're not Eagles or Chiefs fans, right?
Yeah. Which I understand is, probably not the best for the advertisers. I don't know, but
yeah, we'll see.
For me, fly, Eagles, fly.
Well, thank you to our listeners for joining us today. And remember to like, share, and tell your friends about the Brand Shorthand podcast. And as Lorraine likes to remind you, subscribe.
Right.
Until next time, have an amazing day.
Ain't nobody's business but my own. You say you are